Man, the moment I opened my eyes this morning, I knew it was a good day. The headache was gone. The sinuses are pretty much 90% clear. So I immediately thought, okay, what am I going to do in the gym? I'm going to get in there and put in some good work. I was feeling good, and my head was kind of feeling clear. So I thought, definitely, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try and do some block pulls, or in this case, rack pulls, because they don't really have the blocks. So that's what I did. So I basically just went in there. I did kind of sets of 10 up to 100, and then I did sets of 5. And I tried to basically work my way all the way up to what I wanted to kind of feel, what my 1 rep max, if you will, is with I think this is pin 16. The numbers are kind of from top to bottom. I don't know if that's normal for all kind of power racks, but this was pin 16, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of lower than the knee, lower than the tibial tuberosity as well. So it's kind of like not mid shin, but kind of like, I guess, 2/3 of the way up. So I kind of wanted to kind of do it there. I feel like knee, tibial tuberosity and kind of that area, it's a bit too high. I want to kind of lower, because obviously the lower that it is, the more kind of carryover you're going to have to the real deal off the floor. But you can do all of those ranges as long as you don't go over the knee. So that's kind of where I'd set it today. And I just kept going and going and going. Today I hit 250 kilos for 1. I kind of had 2 bites at it. The first bite, I kind of lost my tension and lost my brace. Like I mentioned in yesterday's video, one of the things that makes block pulls and rack pulls kind of awkward, especially kind of that mid-shin area, is the fact that, number one, you don't have any leg drive. It's all freaking posterior chain. Your shins are vertical. So it's all of the power is basically coming from your glutes, from your hamstrings, essentially your hip extensors. There's no knee extensor kind of moment, or even briefly kind of to break the bar of the floor. So it's all kind of hip extension, and it's also obviously heavier on the core and the lower back and whatnot. So I was quite happy to hit 250. Now, my cameraman was asking me, dude, is this your best pin squat? And I don't know if it is. I feel it might be. I remember a time last year when I was doing it in not at this house that I'm currently living in, but the last one. I don't know how high those blocks are set up back then. I have a feeling they were kind of around the knee, so maybe this definitely could be my best block pull. So definitely really happy with 250. I'm looking forward to kind of going to 260, 270 over the next few months. I really want to see what sort of translation, what sort of carryover it has to the real deal, off the floor, and also obviously the squat. Now, how is the squat related to this? Well, we all know that the squat is the king of all exercises. At least it shares the throne with the deadlift. It basically works every muscle in the body, if you will. You can substitute the arms, but one could argue that if you're moving super heavy weight, everything is clenching. You're squeezing the bar, and therefore, through what Pavel Tsatsouline says, irradiation would mean that you're kind of spilling over that tension from your hand all the way through the biceps, all the way through the lats. Everything's kind of tensing. And certainly if you're doing a 1 rep max, I don't think there's any muscles in your body that are just chilling out, taking a smoko. It's kind of like one of those cases where if you're getting ready to get hit by Mike Tyson to the abdomen, yeah, your abdomen is going to get hit, but your freaking toes are getting flexed. Everything's getting tense because you're expecting a lot of trauma. So everything gets tense. So it's kind of like that with 1 rep max lifts. So squat and deadlift, definitely, the best exercises out there. So definitely these block pulls are gonna help the deadlifts because it's kind of similar motion. But I also think it's gonna help the squat because, as we know, squat also involves the glutes heavily, especially if you go really low like I do. One of the things about the glutes though, which I kind of learned the hard way through my right hip pain, is that the glutes are weird, man. I always thought the glutes kind of started from your pelvis region, sacral area. There's all sorts of kind of origin, points in that kind of fan muscle that the glutes are. And then they kind of like go around and insert into the femur. Well, to my surprise, earlier this year, I realized that was not the case. Quite a lot of fibers actually insert into the iliotibial band, or the ITB. Now, to me, that was a shocking freaking revelation. I never knew that thing existed. One of the biggest muscles, one of the prime movers of our body, attaches to a freaking tendon. It attaches to a ITB band. That's to me crazy, man. But anyway, it's right. I looked it up through many different sources, and it's right. And so why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because this ITB, which is kind of running on the lateral sides of our legs, upper legs, the ITB is weird, man. It's got insertions and kind of touches all of the kind of leg. So some of the quads kind of get locked up if your ITB is really tight. And so one way to release your ITB, in my experience, and certainly from the hip pain point of view, definitely improved, was simply training the glute. Because when the glute gets locked up, tense, or weak, or just stressed out, it tends to kind of lock up. And when it locks up, it pulls on that ITB band. And with it, it pulls all the other structures. Because we know the damn glutes are strong, man. They're really, really strong. And so when they start pulling on the ITB, all these other structures which are also inserting into the ITB start getting pulled with it. And one of the structures that I kind of had trouble with is the TFL, the tensor fasciae lata. That little guy kind of sits where your front pocket is. It's kind of like a hip internal rotator. It's also kind of, it contributes to hip flexion. It's a very, very small muscle compared to the glute. The glutes are humongous. And so what I was kind of noticing with me is that that's where the pain was. And I kept massaging the TFL, and it wasn't really doing anything. And it was kind of coming and going. And it was only until I started training directly my glutes, warming them up with lots of deadlifts, lots of kind of leaning over exercises, RDLs, good mornings, that kind of thing, was I seeing improvements. And the reason I was seeing improvements was because I was pumping the blood and giving attention to the glutes. And the glutes were therefore relaxing because of that extra attention and kind of more volume. We know, this is certainly my experience. When you're doing high volume repetitions to a muscle, it tends to relax. It doesn't tense. When you're doing singles all the time, like I was doing really heavy squats, muscles tend to kind of tighten up, because what is strength? What is maximum strength? It's tension. And what is stretching? It's relaxation. And when you're pumping blood, heaps and heaps of blood into muscles, they tend to relax because you're kind of like expanding them and relaxing them. So when I was doing that to the glutes, I felt the hip pain disappear essentially. It was kind of relaxing the glute, therefore adding slack into the ITB, and then the ITB was kind of letting go of all the other structures, and there was basically less tension through the whole system purely by doing that. Anyway, this is the 250 kilo. Notice that I had 2 goes at it. I lost tension, like I mentioned. I lost tension, and so I kind of tried to kind of lean backwards a little bit more, kind of like what Eddie Hall does. He talked about kind of leaning backwards and doing like a seesaw, get your weight contributing to the pull. So here I kind of didn't do as much. Tried, it didn't work, reshuffled, and I really leaned back and I started pulling, and I kind of let the bar dictate where my position was supposed to be, and it worked. I got the 250 up, so that's a really good baseline for me. I'll go from there. So this is 10 kilos over my deadlift off the floor. So it's already a super maximal weight. So it's going to be interesting to see what I'm going to do with it. Actually, after this, I went to squats, did some squats, worked up to 180. After the 180 single squat, I went back to this. I left 200 kilos on the bar, and I did 3 sets of 3 with that. So just a bit more volume. So the glutes are key. The glutes are key to the squat, because if you got upset glutes, if your glutes are just weak and not performing well, they might get frightened, they might get tight, and then your whole freaking upper leg hip area gets screwed through this ITB business. So it's in your best interest to kind of work on your glutes, pump blood into your glutes. I remember Max Ada from Juggernaut Training Systems, which had Wesley Smith over there. I've watched those guys many times over the years. One of the reasons I took particular interest in Max Ada is because he actually directly trained with Ivan Abajev. He did like a stint with him maybe for 3 months or something. I don't exactly recall the period. But he talks about all his experience. You guys can look this up on YouTube. Definitely, there's a few videos there. You definitely should watch if you're interested in this sort of stuff. But one of the things I remember him saying is that after like a period of squatting every day and always hitting maximum weight and always kind of having multiple attempts at maximum weight, both not just the squat but also clean and jerk and all this sort of stuff, he was saying that his hips were so damn tight that it was kind of sore to walk down the stairs in the morning. But then once you get warmed up, with some work, the hips will release. And as I was kind of working out today, I thought of this story, and I thought, man, I wonder if this is kind of TFL pain related to the ITB for those guys as well. Because if you are squatting all the time and all the time heavy like the Bulgarians did under Ivan Abajev, I wonder this was all related to the ITB. And then I wonder if those guys just did some hip thrusts, light hip thrusts or block pulls or something like this, just add some volume blood into those glutes. I wonder if that would have recovered a little bit better and would have been in less pain, just purely by this whole concept of the ITB being pissed off with all this squatting. So this is why I think block pulls are beneficial for me, at least, because it kind of puts that good volume of attention to the glute. And if the glute's happy, the whole freaking hip seems to be happy. Releases the TFL, it releases the ITB, releases the outer quad, that outside quad muscle, lateralis, the biggest muscle of the quad. So the ITB, if you piss that thing off, you're gonna get screwed big time. So this is kind of what I think the method or the cause of my hip pain has always been. Every time I kind of give a whole bunch of time to heavy singles and I don't address some sort of pulling, I feel like I'll lose not only this health of the hip, but also start to kind of let go of some mobility through my hip. And it makes sense, because if you got pissed off glutes, you're not going to be able to have good passive or active hip flexion. And you can simply test that by standing up on one leg, stand up, lift one knee, and try and pull it all the way to your chest. When your glutes are really, really jacked up, they're not going to want to give, and you're going to kind of get to 90 degrees and you won't be able to move it. But if you have really long glutes, you'll be able to pull that knee all the way to your chest. And so if you're thinking about getting ATG and you can't even pull your knee to your chest with your arms, it's not going to go well for you, man. You might kind of help when you load the bar up and the bar is going to compress the glutes into kind of extension or into flexion. But it's you can see why passive hip flexion is beneficial to somebody that wants to squat ATG. You need to have healthy glutes. So this is kind of one of the ideas behind these partial kind of movements. Although I've kind of spoken a lot about other kind of reasons why you want to do partials. I mentioned Paul Anderson yesterday and whatnot, but this is kind of one of the other things why every time I do this I feel good. So the squat felt good. Immediately kind of felt happy to be in a squat. I think this is why this is the case. This is the glutes are just your king. They're the kings of human performance. If you look at any kind of powerful athlete, whether it be a sprinter or a weightlifter or a power lifter, rarely do you see somebody squat or deadlift super good. I mean, deadlift can be a little bit weird. Because you get all sorts of kind of morphologies. You get people with super long arms, freaking, they're almost kind of standing. When they lock out, their arms are kind of, the hands are at the knees. So deadlift is kind of weird, but definitely with squatting, you rarely see a good squatter with no glutes. Rarely do you see that. I mean, everyone that has a really good squat generally has really good set of glutes. And so if you have really strong glutes, then you're going to get good mobility and you're going to have probably better engagement to the quads and hamstrings, all that, because the ITB will be relaxed. So definitely I'm going to try and improve this lift. And I think it's got a cheaper recovery point system in the sense that I don't think it's going to tax my system too much because I'm getting it off the pins. It's not that super long range of motion. So it seems to be like a win-win scenario whichever way I look at it. Which I'm really happy about. In terms of frequency, I'm not sure at this moment. I'm thinking about doing it 2 times a week. I think this will be a good start. In terms of pushing heavy and doing these 3 triples or whatever I decide to do for the back off sets, maybe tomorrow I'll come in, do the same thing, and maybe work up to 100 kilos for a set of 10 or something like this, just to purely get blood in it and use it as a warm up to the squat. But in the same token, I also want to do pin squats. So I need to work out exactly how to go about doing pin squats. How do I put pin squats? Do I go super heavy with the pin squats? Or do I do pin squats at super freaking shitty range of motion? I'm talking like, basically completely vertical torso and just use it to load kind of that super, super upper portion of the lift. So a few things to think about. And on top of all of that, I'm also having ideas and thoughts about implementing some of these partials into my bench training. So putting same thing, making like a partial range of motion, top end of the range of motion. I even thought about floor presses, doing the bench press off the floor. That kind of also works well. I just don't know exactly how far I want to shave the range of motion. But freaking stoked to be, feeling somewhat healthy or almost perfectly healthy. The sinuses still have a little bit of crap in them, but I'm feeling really good systemically, and I was definitely good enough to put in a good workout today. And then after the workout, me and the fellas went into the same joint that we always seem to hit every time we get together. This joint is basically like a Balkan grill type joint. They do traditional foods from where we come from, Yugoslavia. Meats, all sorts of stuff. So you're seeing Ivar there again. I know one of you guys, actually a few of you guys commented on the Ivar. Man, I have Ivar wherever I go. When I go to this joint, I have Ivar. When I'm at home eating whatever, I have Ivar. I love Ivar. It's one of those traditional foods, I guess, that we always have. So big meal, big workout. I've got work tomorrow morning, so I'll try and get in a session tomorrow as well. But just still thinking about how to go about the frequency of all these things. Because pin squats are quite heavy. Block pulls are quite heavy. Squats are quite heavy. Bench press is, quite, it's volume related. I'm doing kind of the Bilbo method still. So I don't know whether do I do the Bilbo method and then tuck in the pin squat, the pin presses, if you will, afterwards. I'm not sure. All these things are kind of twirling in my head. But as I'm sitting here right now, man, my back is feeling unbelievable. My hips feel super mobile. Oh man, it's unreal. Unreal. You always kind of learn stuff about the body. You always learn, but you always have to go back to the core principles. Never forget about the glutes. Whatever you do with your lower body, whether it be squat, deadlift, jump, sprint, the glutes are the key to the human body, man. I seriously feel it. I've spent quite a lot of time recently thinking about the quads, but if you got pissed off glutes, all of that's gonna get locked up and jacked up. So definitely you need to do some sort of accessory, some sort of direct attention to glutes. And one of the best ways to do that is to freaking just do something leaning over. RDL, good morning, block pull, rack pull, GHD back raises, something along those lines. Every time I've done any of those, I have felt good. I'll catch you guys tomorrow for another workout. Peace out.